Polishing Profits podcast, where we discuss all things related to the business of detailing. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this podcast is for you. In each episode, we'll cover topics ranging from business management to marketing solutions. Here to help you grow your detailing business, your hosts, Nick and Dustin.
Oh, a little echo there.
Look at that.
One time's not enough. You got to hear it twice.
What's up, fellas? How are we doing this Friday?
Going good. So everybody, just want to introduce Chris Landry over to the podcast today. Of course, my co-host Nick Roman. He's always here, ripping it up with us. But Chris is going to be on the show talking a little bit about his products and things that he does, and then we're going to dive into a really good topic on employees and more specifically, maybe employees leaving, and then what do they do afterwards? They start a new business, they go work for a competition, whatever that may be. We're going to have that conversation. Chris, I'm going to let you take the floor, do an intro here, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Who are you, Chris? Who are you?
Yes, sir. So my name's Chris Landry. I got into the detailing industry, of course, with social media, getting into some of the groups, learning new services. Mm-hmm. I've been detailing for roughly 10 years now. Graduated high school in 2014, jumped straight into a body shop, and I went straight to the wash rack, learning with Carbright products, learning how to polish and buff the cars that came out of the paint shop. We would do adjacent panels to the vehicles that were just painted. So learning that industry, and just I could not sit in a chair at a 12-hour job. I used to work for Folgers Coffee, and just following TikToks and going through videos, I came across a scratch repair business. So I learned that business, and I got into that industry back in 2021, and that's kind of where I made my footprint, gaining dealerships, helping people gain dealerships across the United States. I actually stepped foot into over 500 dealerships nationwide through 17 different states. And we have our services, or we have services using our products in probably 300 to 350 dealerships nationwide today, and growing rapidly. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's impressive, and to be spread out like that. However, I notice an accent. That doesn't seem like your just traditional Alabama boy accent. Where are you from, Chris?
I am actually from New Orleans, Louisiana. 15 minutes east of New Orleans.
That's cool.
So, the little
Nick,
town
that's right beside you, right?
Yeah, that's right by Chicago. Is that right by Chicago?
Yeah. So the little town that I'm from is called Chalmette, Louisiana, and we actually have our own little Cajun accent that sounds like we're from Boston or New York. I get accents.
Yeah, you're a chameleon. You can fit in anywhere there.
It's the perfect blend,
Right.
It just looks like your background is almost like a green screen. The clouds aren't even moving. Are you sure
they're not?
Outside?
It is perfect, dude. It is perfect. So you were mentioning you guys.
I'll be emailing you in the next day or so we can get over to that mobile command center. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I actually
when business calls, you got to answer.
That's what this show is. Usually, Dustin can pass like a plate of food at a Denny's or something.
Yeah, right.
So we gotta have that.
Come on, Denny's.
So I'm actually at a dealership right now doing some services. I actually totally forgot about this podcast this morning. I'll take a quick little break. But overall, I'm in a hand applied clear coat industry. We have a few different products that we like to use, what I call a 3 to 6 month product. It helps better the appearance on some damages. It'll last anywhere between 3 to 6 months. I charge anywhere from $50 to $85 to do a few scratches on a vehicle at a dealership. Also have a 1 to 2 year answer. That's a self-leveling coating. But it doesn't have much durability. It's not a protective layer. It's just going to correct that appearance and help these dealerships sell these vehicles. And I charge anywhere between $125 to $185 for that service. And what I was just telling Nick, we just launched Speed Clear Pro, which is our what we call a retail customer product. We have it accelerated testing, and we lasted over the 5.5 year mark at a 60% degradation.
Fantastic. Yeah,
meaning
fantastic.
40% of the coating still left on. We did have a few tests that we didn't really run specifically. We just wanted to do some test trials with it. Putting our ceramic coating on top of Speed Clear Pro, we shut the system off at 7.5 years, and it still had a ton of room to go.
That's hey man, that's cool, Chris. I'm gonna stop you right there because we just covered a whole lot of ground, and I want to
we gotta dive
start
into
back. Yeah. You took
Man.
look. We did the full marathon in one step. So let's go back.
No problem.
All right, let's talk about Speed Clear. Just so the guys that don't understand, that don't even know what this means. This is so typically when we have scratches on a vehicle that come in, we end up polishing them out. We all know the thickness of paint on vehicles right now is at an all-time low. Yeah. Is this a product that you're saying you don't have to polish to correct scratches? This is a hand-applied coating, clear coat. Help me understand what this actually is.
Yes, so it's actually a clear coat. So Speed Clear is a 1K product, and of course Speed Clear Pro is as well. But we're in amber color. We have a polyurethane base, which is Speed Clear by itself. It does actually turn into a solid. We're adding up to a mil and a half thickness back to the paint on a single application. So like I was talking to Nick in the pre-meeting, these vehicles today are coming from the dealerships with 1.5 to 2 mils of clear coat. And that's when most paint gauges are measuring paint. They're measuring the E-coat. They're measuring the base coat and the clear coat as well. So you can only imagine how thin the clear coat on top is.
Yeah, sure.
So we're under that mil. The second you put a high-speed rotary or a heavy cut pad on the DA, you're going through on some edges.
So let's talk about, you mentioned dealerships, in this conversation. Is this product typically sold in a dealership, realm where they're looking for fast fix, not traditional paint correction and coating? I'm not limiting to that. I'm just saying, is that typical?
That's one industry that we go after.
Understood. Okay.
Or that's one specific spot that we go after. It's a fraction of the time. I could coat a vehicle in less than 30-40 minutes the proper way and get a 90% better appearance. And I'm charging $185 for, let's just say, an Infiniti QX80.
How long would it take you to polish that car, Nick? Your shop?
Oh, yeah, you're going to be there. It's a 24-hour process where you're
without a doubt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My question that I think is really interesting is that we've got a lot of wholesale talk right now, and I think we don't do a lot of it on the podcast.
We don't.
Wholesale versus retail. Chris, obviously we've talked a little bit about that wholesale side. Can you give us a little bit of a light into that retail side?
Yeah, so let's just say somebody has a front bumper has bug etching, and they don't want to spend the $1,200 to have it. Sorry.
Dustin will be back. He just needed a quick break.
I can hear you guys.
So let's just say we have a customer that comes in, average 2012 Camry. We could go with bug etching on the front bumpers, on the mirror caps.
The process, you know what I mean? I think we could definitely dive into. What about the selling, right? So I feel like you've got a good game plan, right? You've scaled your wholesale side to the max. Is that the sweet spot? Is that where you're happy? Or do you see like, hey, look, that's where the money is for the product versus having a store doing traditional detailing along with, a Speed Clear repair as these details are coming saying, hey, look, you got that scratch. Let me make that disappear for $200. It'll be gone for 2-4 years. You see what I'm saying?
Correct. And I've never really pushed into that area because when I started my business in 21, I tried the detail shop. I opened up a detail shop last August, and I shut it down March of this year. I probably lost, I'm going to say $50,000, $60,000 trying it. I felt like I wasn't in the best of markets.
Chris, what's going on?
Hey, Chris. A little behind the scenes look.
Excellent.
So just cut Dustin out of the shot. Oh, there he is.
Dang, he's back. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the interruption.
That's no problem. So, I never really got into the retail side. I know there are a few companies out there that are really touched on mostly retail. And what we would call that is a clear coat restoration. You're going to buzz that whole car down and start to finish. You're still inside of
think
3
of it
to 5
like this.
hour
It's
range.
a matter of like if you're going to put yourself into that box of clear, like on, Black Rhino Speed Clear Restoration, that's what's on your URL online SEO.
Correct.
You're not going to necessarily get that funnel of people looking for car detailing, ceramic coating. You know what I mean? Are you going to be adding tint? Are you going to be, you know what I mean? So
Correct.
Right now, I think as people are looking at their business and they're saying, hey, should I go retail? Should I add a wholesale department? Should I add a new extension of my business that's window tinting? Everyone's always looking to scale, looking to grow, looking to add employees. What is that thing that is on your mind, Chris, at night? And I'm like, oh my God, is it scaling more on the wholesale? What's that thing that keeps you up at night?
So like you said before, I mastered the whole wholesaling aspect of things. I know I will go in today and pitch to owner of a dealership, dealer group that has 150 dealerships. I know the rebuttal questions. Hey, why? I have a touch-up guy. I'm a little different than a touch-up guy. Touch-up, they're going to hinder the appearance by adding a slug-like mark. We're taking clear coat and just putting it over a scratch. We're just filling it and letting it self-level to give that better appearance across the entire panel. We don't have a slug-like mark. We don't have some of these guys taking a rotary polisher and leaving swirl marks and product in the door jams. That's what we're trying to reduce. We're still in, also, let's just say we have a QX80 that's dark blue here that I'm going to be working on. That vendor's going to charge them $350 to $400 to polish that entire.
They're offsetting that cost there onto the customer there.
Correct.
It makes sense. So, I think it's really interesting. Look, you've got Dustin there, and he's the boat guy. You know what I mean? On top of his other stuff. I've got a hand car wash side. You know what I mean? And you're there doing the wholesale work. It just goes to say, anyone listening, wherever you are in that sort of detailing atmosphere, you find that niche and you just go with it. You know what I mean? You got to maximize what you're really, really good at. And there's no wrong answer. You know, and people listening and saying, man, that's what Nick's doing. That's what Dustin's doing. That's what Chris is doing. I should do that. Well, yeah, you could, but you can also say, what are the things that I do really well in my business? And maybe that's on the mobile side. And maybe that's just on window tinting. You know what I mean? And that's what's scaling in your demographic as well.
Yeah. And my suggestion going into the dealership realm is find some, before you step foot in that world, find someone like Chris that's operating in that capacity and reach out and talk to them, because there are nuances within the within the dealerships that you better know your stuff, man, because you can get burned real quick. There's a lot of promises from that industry, and a lot of detailers get sucked into that promise of all this work, and that work probably does exist, but you've got to have your pricing dialed in. You got to have your payment terms dialed in. You've got to have how are you going to perform all this work? Because the moment you don't get it all done, or the moment that they're holding money and all that, it's going to affect you. So, we've done work for dealerships over the years. Some of
you still do work for dealerships, Dustin?
We do high-end coatings for the dealerships.
Okay.
We don't do the production style detailing anymore. We've done it, and I've been invited into the dealerships to set up operations. Billy Smith's really good at that. I'm sure Chris has had some experience with that. It's a world that I try not to venture off into, because our customer base are different. We're trying to serve a different customer. Now, I know that detailers that are struggling to sell retail, that option is there. And I don't think that you should shy away from it. I just think that you need to go into it educated and understand pricing and understand payment terms and then expectations, especially.
Correct.
I think whenever you're doing that wholesale work, you're trying to create those high barrier of entry, right? You're trying to say, hey, look, if I go and say, I'm going to go do this at the dealership or in any business or doing boats or doing, whatever the heck I'm doing, I don't even know anymore these days. But what is going to stop other people from coming in, right, and taking that market share? And how can I grow my market share with people already existing in the business? Chris, what has been your experience saying, hey, look, when you just started out, these dealerships, was there competition? What was sort of those hurdles that you sort of went through with those barrier of entries into these dealerships in the wholesale side?
Right. So what I ran into a few obstacles of what was bumper guys that were spraying bumpers. They thought we were similar to those guys. Then when we're bringing up scratch repair, you have touch-up vendors that have buffers to do scratch repair. So they're looking at a touch-up guy that's leaving a few scratches on the vehicle, and they're just coating the chip or doing touch-up on the chips on the front bumpers.
Well, nail polish on the car there.
And how
permanent marker.
Correct. So we were running into those rebuttals, and we had to actually sit down, and my brother and I actually started this together, pitching to each other, going to store. Okay, hey, we took this rebuttal. We have a guy. How can we move forward from that? So we would sell to ourselves. We'd come up with different sales pitches, how we were different.
So now that you're the established one, right? Like flip the script, right? So there used to be that paint guy, that dent guy that you went and infiltrated the market, right? Now it's your market. So if Dustin over there says, you know what, man, that Chris guy's pretty smart, and he goes and undercuts you by $5, right? What is that now, that new rebuttal? Because I think that's really important in business today, saying, hey, look, what is going to create that differentiation to keep? And I think it's fair to say sometimes wholesale isn't the most loyal work. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is that? What's sort of that type of rebuttal now that you're in first and not in second, right?
Correct. So that's actually a question I've never thought of, and I'm glad you're asking that, because now I'm going to go home and not sleep tonight.
Yeah.
From that next person on, okay, hey, when I start to really push this service, because it's been around for 20 years, people have their quick little fixes, and similar products have been around, but we have actually made a process and sales pitches that work. I'm going to say I have a 60% closing ratio as to any city that I step foot in. If I go to a city and I'm touching 20, 25 dealerships, I'm walking away with anywhere between 12 to 15 start dates for next week.
Yeah,
and that comes down with showing live demonstrations. Now, moving forward, with it being a fairly new industry, I would say jump in as soon as possible. But now
but those territories are going to bump. All of a sudden, you're going to find the Chris Landry of New York start coming down, and you're going, you know what I mean? Like, what?
Ask Mike Carlin how that feels when you talk about different territories. That's the cuss word of IGL.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's really interesting. You know, it's just
without a doubt. I don't have an answer for that at the moment, but you will have me thinking tonight and over the next.
You know what? You didn't answer my staying up at night question, so I had to plant a seed in there, Chris. I can't let you.
Listen, Nick's head's gonna be so big after this podcast. He's not gonna be able to get out of the door in there. His head's gonna be so big. All right, listen.
Okay. You know what I mean? That technology keeps advancing.
It does.
Right?
It does.
And the products keep getting better and easier and faster. You know what I mean? And
it's they evolve. Tools evolve, and products is essentially a tool, you know, and it's just to solve. It's a problem to solve it. You know, it's a solution to a problem, and things like that always evolve. So you always have new products, you always have new tools, and you always have to, you know, keep up to speed. All right, now I don't know if we have time, or should we pass this conversation to the next? Oh, we got time. 17.
We got time, Dustin.
So
are you in a rush?
No, I'm in no rush. I'm flying to Cocoa Beach, Florida to go sit in the sand for a couple of days. And then I'll be working. So, conversation I want to talk about today is employees. When you hire in your detail shop, Chris, you've had some employees in the past. I think recently you've had some turnover. Nick, correct. I know you have employees. We have employees here. And this is a conversation I hear all the time. First of all, I hear detailers not wanting to hire because you're essentially training your competition. But how do you deal with in that moment where a detailer, you've taught them everything, you brought them up to speed, you gave them all the tools, and now they've learned enough, quote unquote, to go do it on their own. And I'm saying that because I've had this happen. I've got 4 of my previous employees are all now operating, you know, within our area. And I embrace that. I think I'm a damn good teacher. I think I'm a damn good business mentor. And that's the way I go into it. I don't want this to be negative. And I'm pretty sure when I did my little pre-show, everybody thought I was going to come on here and rip. Not at all. Not at all. How cool is that we're teaching young men well enough to go launch a business and go provide for themselves, or take one that was struggling in his own business, come in here, learn the things he should do right, and then go do it again. So Chris, tell us a little bit about your situation. Have you ever had anything like that happen?
Yeah. So that actually happened to me roughly about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. I had a dealership detail department that I was in for, I'm going to say 8 to 9 months now. We were getting paid per car. And at first they came in, hey, we'll give you a list of cars that we need to do. No, that's not how I operate. I want to set up shop here at the dealership, and we'll wash every single used car that comes through. So we were basically doing just used units, and we were charging $200 per car. And we would do anywhere between 15 to 20 cars a week. Well, it slowed down a little bit, so it went down to a one-man operation. I went to 3 or 4 different employees trying to train them, show them the ins and outs of the product the service, and I just couldn't get them to follow my process. As well as them managing the business. Hey, you got to create your own invoice. Here's your stock number. Every vehicle needs a stock number on the invoice. So it was just a back and forth. I finally found somebody that he was there for about 3 months. And unfortunately, once I learned the business and he learned how to do invoicing, he's been working for the last 25 years inside of dealership detail departments. Once he learned that invoicing and the whole business side, he actually went in behind me and cutthroat and backdoor deal to the dealership. And here I am. It's like, okay, I just taught this guy everything that I knew. I should have been there every day. He said he wanted to learn things and work on his own. So that's kind of why I made him a manager, created the invoices. Well, next thing you know, I basically gave him my entire business operation.
You did. And as we all do. I mean, you got to be able to relinquish tasks and things like that. And in faith that they, stay around and help you build. However, the we're not closed in here in this building. Like, the people can get out and they can go do on their own. And that's the part of the perks of this thing too. What I tell, and Nick, have you, just before I kind of go on here with what my explanation is going to be, Nick, have you had this experience in this realm?
I would say, yeah. So, and we're going to date ourselves a little bit. I'm talking over 5 years ago. When we actually did some wholesale work, same thing. Dealership tried to pick them up and paid them an extra $1, whatever it is. You know what I mean? And that's where we really said, you know what? We're not doing the dealer work. Good luck with that. But we also created our number one priority is that personnel infrastructure. We do have the luxury of being able to hire for car wash and train up to detail and train up to mobile detail and then do PPF.
There's hierarchy.
So there's a hierarchy. There's something to work for. The other part is those responsibilities that Chris sort of brought up are like, hey, is one person doing everything, or is it a matter of, hey, they're doing what they like to do? You know what I mean? So ask yourself that, Chris, if you need someone to go in and do the whole business side, then that's a partnership, not an employee. In my opinion. You see what I'm saying? So then I don't like partners. You know what I mean? I'm there trying to create.
You want the whole pie.
Yeah, I want the whole pie. But you want to create an environment where people are able to grow, but not deal with the headaches of partnership. Not deal with. Think of renting versus buying a house. When you rent, you don't have any headaches, right? Because the landlord's going to take care of everything there for you. When you buy, guess what? Something breaks, you got to fix it. Which one do you want to do? And it just depends on where you are in your life at that moment. When someone's ready to start a business, ready to buy a house for that type of responsibility, I want to be there and help them. You know what I mean? Well, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. And so this funny that y'all mentioned that actually, in a sense, it was more competition that took your employee versus them just having this entrepreneurial mindset of, to go do it, which this recent situation started out with another competing shop actually just piquing the detailer, my detailer's interest. And then, that didn't really work out. So he made the next step. So it's really kind of all encompassing. But here's what I try to tell, anybody that I run into, a couple of things. One is, when you work for somebody, you don't carry the stress of the marketing, all the back office stuff. So, tools, products, payroll, like I said, marketing, sales, all the things that goes into running a business. Right. Yeah. And so if I pay a guy $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year to work out here in my shop, which is pretty good money for a shop, right? He's got to go to make that, to net profit that kind of a payroll. he's got to go do 300 or 400,000 a year in sales. So now we're talking a guy that's now that's just himself. That's just himself. So now that guy's got to go out of this shop and go produce $5,000 to $10,000 a week in business every week. Well, we know what happens in springtime. He can print cash, but in the fall, everybody's going to come back running. They always have. All right, because it's hard sell. And now all of a sudden marketing matters. Now all of a sudden sales matters. Now all of a sudden pricing matters. Now all of a sudden software matters. All these things that you got when you were here, now you don't have that anymore. And more time and more money doesn't really exist in ownership unless you are truly prepared to go do it. And by the way, some that I've sent off here have flourished.
Yeah.
They've done good. And I'm super proud of that. But I don't think that I think we should cast the vision of what we want, and we should include the people that are with us that want to be here. But they should also understand the cost of everything. They should also understand the stress that you carry, the weight of what you carry. So that way, when they think about that, they see a job. Well, this car's paying $2,500, and it took me 8 hours to do. Okay, but what did that really cost us to do? You know, how much more?
You know what? It's if you want to go in and try and teach that, is that going to be worth your time, Dustin, for every employee to be like, hey, look, it costs some money to run a business versus, again, if that's the person that goes in and understands and they don't have really that loyalty or they really don't have that appreciation, then it's probably not someone you want at the business long term anyway, to be real honest with you.
No, I kind of loop it into our staff meetings, and my team understands cost. And we don't drive it at home like, okay, if you run your own business, this is what it's going to cost you. But they understand here's what it costs to operate. Look, I'm not scaring them. They can see the scared on my face.
Right. So
they scare you.
Back to what that would cost for something like that, Nick, I actually help build businesses. Like I said, I stepped in about 500 dealerships nationwide. I charge anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000 up to $5,000 initial upfront cost for me to come into your area for anywhere between 2 to 3 days, and I'm pitching to their stores in their area. Depending on the down payment up front would also depend on the royalties that I would ask for 5 years inside of a contract. So if I was to go gain you 10 stores in Chicago and those 10 stores generate $200,000 a year in revenue, I would ask for 7.5% of that for 5 years. That's how I help build.
So it's a franchise model. You know what I mean? It's a franchise.
In a sense, yes.
Essentially. Yeah.
And I think that's cool. I think that's, again, it's just it's a different business model. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And that's the beauty of business. That's the beauty of detailing, is that you get to pick your business model. You get to pick what you enjoy. And you know what I mean? Sales, man, I'd rather be working on a car. I'll do all the back end stuff. I'll do all the other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sales is my least favorite part.
Really?
Oh, man, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. No.
Favorite too. That's my least, by far my least favorite.
I'm an efficiency guy. I just want to build that machine and build that process and let that puppy run, you know.
Yeah, I'm study the numbers, study the operation, try to solve the big problems, look for our vision out in the future. I can't stand the sales side of things is uncomfortable for me. I've always got a sales team around me. I can do it, but our sales team is important to our operation. Let's just say. Awesome. Well, and the thing is, here's what I want to leave as far as that conversation with. Is detailers should not slow growth because they're afraid to hire someone because that someone is going to go be competition to them. First of all, if your business is that weak where you can train somebody and they go to work in your area and they take your business, you haven't done a great job building a business. You don't have a connection with your customers. If you're that scared that detailer is going to leave you and the relationship you have to go over there, and some of them will over $1 or $2, but the bulk stays because you built a relationship with them and they really know kind of how that works. When someone leaves you and then goes and becomes your competition, there's a sense of loyalty that customers have. There's like, yeah, there's something funky about that. So, so don't not hire because you're afraid to train your competition. I take pride in that. I have 4 of them that are out running the roads right now, mobile detailing. None of them have a shop. They're all mobile detailing around our area, and some of them are set up with IGL.
Yeah,
and so
awesome.
It's a prideful thing for me. I had a customer say he was a disgruntled customer. He's been an asshole from day one, and I hope he's right. And he's like, man,
doing well.
said this sales guy, he's like, every time I've come out there, y'all have had a different sales manager. And Rob, a different shop manager. And Rob said, yeah, he said he trains them so good, they go run their own business.
Yeah. That's a good thing to say.
I ran into those obstacles growing actually. I grew so in 2021, from October of 21 to the end of December, we went to growing our business. I only did a little bit of revenue within, I think I did $13,000 at the end of 21 from October to December 31st. And I grew my business to $42,000 in the month of January of 22. That was my
wow.
I did $42,000 in January. The first 90 days of 2022, we did right over $127,000. And fortunately, I had hired somebody, and with me stepping foot into other areas and not focusing on my business, I was actually stepping away and burning the bridges with the relationships that I had built in that time frame. I wasn't showing up every single week like they were expecting me. On a Wednesday, I go to Toyota. Tuesday, I would go into Chevy. When I wouldn't show up for a week and a half to 2 weeks at a time, my employee quit. Now he has some of my stores. We will be working together again in the future. He has purchased some products from me recently, and unfortunately, that's just business growth. I had to learn the hard way. I have a decent amount of dealerships that I like to build currently, and I just want to keep those 10 dealerships happy.
That's right. That's spot on. Nick, what you got there? What's final thoughts on employees and training competition?
I don't know. That's probably the one part of the business that I think a lot of detailers struggle with the most. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
I think you got to get your business to the point where you can afford to hire an employee and understand it's a loss leader when it starts, but it lets you have a bigger runway for your business. You could go through the first 5 employees, all of them fail, and then all of a sudden, the 6th one works, and you're there saying, I just burned money for 6 months, but it now lets you grow.
That's not money. That's education, and we pay more. Here's the one thing that I can guarantee you, and I can guarantee that's happened here. Not one person has ever left here that we went down from. We always improved.
Yeah.
Every time someone leaves here, and it hurts. It's emotional, dude. This last one, a couple weeks ago, you could probably tell. I mean, it bothered me because it was unexpected, but we did nothing but get better. We took a step up. We were able to take a look inside and say, what can we improve on? How can we continue to build our team?
Yep.
And what we realized is we had a bunch of leaders out here in the shop that were ready to make that next step.
That's awesome. And that gives people that opportunity, man. That's awesome.
It does. And we've always improved from that. And that's no shot at anybody that's ever left here. Those people were here for a time in a season that mattered, and they put in a lot of good work, and we love them to death. Everybody that's left here, there's no ill will. Never. But we took a step up when you left.
Yeah. And it kicks Dustin in the butt. It kicks me in the butt when someone leaves. You know what I mean? Because then you're like, okay, what did that person do really well? And just like any of us, you can't, you know what I mean? There's no 2 people that are the same. So you're going to go in, and when that next person steps up, it's going to be a little bit different. But if you're focusing on the weaknesses of the last person, you know what I mean? You're going to now go and put that in the forefront and say, hey, you know what? We really want to change this. And you have, and you can do that change when you make,
dude, it's eye-opening. It's growth. It's exciting. Chris, final thoughts.
Oh, man. And I'm going to go back to what y'all were talking about. Losing one, no ill will to that employee. Sure. But as well, I didn't lose just an employee. I lost $10,000 a month in revenue. I lost a dealership. But that very next day, I actually gained a dealer group that has 13 dealerships in the area. We're going to be servicing 3 of those 13 moving forward, starting this week coming. And all we have to do is go step foot into the other 10 dealerships that they.
Yeah.
So that opened up the opportunity for me to grow, help that gentleman actually see what he was missing out on for the last 27 years. He now has a great business running at that dealership now. Unfortunately, yes, he undercut me, and him and the dealerships had their words, but I think it opened it up, that opportunity, and that next chapter in my business for that growth that I've been looking on. I touched on the detail departments. I loved it. I wanted to take my service through detail department and actually service at one lump sum across the board. Hey, we'll do reconditioning, detailing, the whole 9 yards at one flat rate on one vehicle, and we could get detailing and reconditioning all in one. But I think that was just too much of a step for me moving forward. So I'm going to go back to hitting the scratch repair, building this business and the relationships back up.
That's right.
About a year or two, and then I'll look into gaining those employees. At that
growing
point,
the team again. That's right.
That's it. My business should be strong enough to where no competition can come in. My rapport with that dealership is 100%. That even if they come in and cut me at $50 a unit, they're still going to go ahead.
That's it. I think all business starts with the relationship. And if you can circle back to that, build the foundation, build a strong network of customers and relationships, and you don't have to worry about that. What kind of comments do we have, Chris? Anything that we need to address? Tyler Gillespie. Howdy, boys. What's up?
I didn't see any comments really pop up. Okay.
If I can get them in the door, I can sell them. Bringing those relationships is really big. Yeah, Scar Barber. That's it. I mean, the thing is building the relationships is everything. That's what sticks around.
And I think, you know what, maybe Scott just set up next week. You know what? If I can get them in the door, how do we get them in the door?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I don't go in and sell my product. I sell my service and myself. People buy from me. I've heard that say, and I've always lived in that every door that I step into.
That's right. Listen, great show. We got one more. Oh, Tab. That's my girl right there. Dustin is the best. That's right. That's right.
All right. He's all right.
That's our boat crew leader. She's our detail, one of our marine detailers. Yes, please. I love
you see?
Topic. There we go. All right. So how to bring them in the door. That's what we'll be talking about next week. It'll be a good conversation about we got to, if you can't sell them if you don't have them, right? We got to go find them. Anthony had turned my maintenance car customers into doing 3 of their boats. Bam, son. I got to text you back, Anthony. I think you texted me about something.
I would like to come down there to your shop, show you a little bit of demonstration behind the products as well.
Yeah.
Touch back on that at the boat show, but I know
that's right.
Busy body for sure. But go ahead and set that up. I'll come down there, show you some demos. We're going to be.
I just saw like an eye twitch from Dustin from that boat show. I know.
Oh man, that's more than eye twitch. My whole body quivered.
We don't say boat show on the show here, okay?
Yeah,
it causes some sort of stress to Dustin.
One thing I do want to mention right before I leave, of course, we have a few discount codes with our products. I have a Facebook page with a little over 1,600 members in it. It is called The Speed Clear. That's where a lot of our information about our products and how we gain dealerships, a little bit of pitching and sales trainings, product knowledge, what we're running into, problem solving. That's a big thing that I touched on in another podcast, mentioning problem solving. We like to create problems so we can help you guys solve it. So inside of my trainings, I help how to problem solve inside of our products. And of course, the business that we just established a relationship with that's going to be joining our trainings is Just Touch It Up. It's a touch-up company that I think every detailer in the industry should look into possibly having a commercial touch-up kit at their shop or on their mobile trailer.
The van,
Yes. That way they can offer that extra service. Hey, I have rock chips on the front of my vehicle. Do you have some touch-up? I'm willing to pay up to $75 to $100. It takes 15 minutes to go ahead, grab that color, dot them with some paint, and a customer's happy. You just added 50-70% better appearance, and you made roughly $100 an hour at that rate just by adding a little bit of touch up. So we
absolutely
appreciate you guys having us on this podcast. We look forward to possibly joining again if another topic comes
of course
up, and we'll go from there and hope to see y'all guys soon.
Awesome, man. Thank you, buddy. Enjoyed you being on. And we're going to leave it with that. Thank you, guys. You guys can find Chris Landry over on his social media page. I'm sure he would be happy to discuss that topic even further with you in person. So we'll see you next week.
Next week.